Hi, everyone. We're just giving folks a few minutes to stream in. Welcome. Hope everyone is enjoying this nice fall day. And I'll just give it a moment.
It's still pretty warm here in Florida.
Believe it or not, it's pretty warm here in New York too. In fact, I'm sitting in my apartment with the sun streaming in behind me and thinking I might have to rip this jacket off at some point. All right. Okay, well, I am going to start my official welcoming remarks. So hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm honored to moderate this forum designed to more directly connect our nominees with you, our NAEA membership. You can also learn more about each nominee and see their vision for NAEA on the NAEA website. We appreciate all who submitted questions in advance, and I hope to incorporate some of them into today's conversation. If we have questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A to communicate them. The NAEA staff will collect those and will field them later. We are recording today's presentation, and we will post it on our YouTube channel. First and foremost, on behalf of the nominating committee, I want to thank all of the NAEA members who presented themselves for consideration. We appreciate the care you brought to what is a very involved process, and we appreciate your willingness to serve. Before we begin, I want to say a few words about this year's nominations. We presented only one person for each open leadership position. As our chair, Raven Deerwater, EA, said in his October 7th letter to the members, the nominating committee would have liked to see more members apply for board leadership. That we had so few members present themselves for NAEA board service is a problem. So I urge our members to practice kindness and respect with one another and when communicating with your volunteer leaders, whether privately or in a public forum. When members see NAEA leaders treated unkindly, it's frankly a turnoff. Your leaders are your peers, and they want to hear from you. Be strong, be clear, be passionate, but be gentle. And don't forget to communicate praise along with your dissatisfaction. NAEA is only as strong as our members, and we're all in this together. So here's the general show flow for today's event. First, each nominee will introduce themselves briefly. Then I'll pose questions to each nominee, and each will have up to 2 minutes to respond. I should mention too that we did share these questions with the nominees in advance. Next, we'll have a group discussion on NAEA leadership and leadership development, focusing on attracting, supporting, and encouraging folks to lend their talents and dedication to NAEA. To wrap up, I'll ask each nominee for any closing remarks they wish to add. So Twyla, I'd love to start with you as our nominee for president-elect. Would you just introduce yourself briefly?
Oh, thanks. I get to go first.
You do.
And I am going to apologize in advance. I do have a cough drop, and so I do apologize for that, but it will be necessary today. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for attending. My name is Twyla Midwood, EA. I'm from Florida. And as a nominee for president-elect, I want to take this opportunity to tell you about myself as well as my thoughts and goals for NAEA. I became a graduate of NTPI Fellow in 2007 and an SSLA graduate from the 2011 Albuquerque, New Mexico event. My NAEA FSEA career began with FSEA as secretary, then vice president, and then becoming the 2014-2015 president. I am currently the chapter president of the Space Coast chapter of FSEA. And in Florida, if you are a chapter president, then you are deemed a director on the board. So I'm also considered a director with FSEA. I've also served on various committees with FSEA. My involvement with NAEA includes serving as a director from 2017 to 2021, and I'm currently the secretary on the NAEA PAC Board of Directors. I've also served as a Government Relations Committee Chair, Affiliate Council Chair, as well as serving on various committees within NAEA. I feel to be president, one should be respectful of members, leadership, and staff. A good leader must also have an open mind, acknowledge different personalities and yet accept them all, and surrounds oneself by a great team. And at NAEA, we do have a great team. Through my involvement at these various levels, I feel that I have developed the leadership skills necessary to be president of NAEA. As your president-elect, I would like to focus on growth over the next several years. And I don't just mean in numbers. We do need an increase in membership, that's important, but we need growth as an organization in developing dynamic and diverse leaders, a willingness to change some of our thought processes, and a willingness to change on how we do things. I also believe we need to touch our new members more than once and more than just saying hi and welcome. They're our future and our growth, and we need to encourage and work with them to be active and involved. But I also want to include our current members. They need to feel that same touch and feel of importance, and that their voice does matter. NAEA is not the same organization as before the pandemic. We were forced to pivot in order to stay alive. We had to accept that we needed to change how we operated, how we provided education, and growing in different directions. We're learning from that our environment. That's growth, and we need to continue that journey. We can't grow in any aspect if we're constantly looking behind ourselves and tripping over ourselves. So we have to go forward. Thank you, and I hope to serve you well.
Thank you, Twyla. Ed Ryan, would you like to introduce yourself as our nominee for treasurer?
Yes, thank you, Phyllis. Okay, as Phyllis mentioned, my name is Ed Ryan. Okay, I'm from the great state of New Jersey. And, you know, from my experience that I think will help the board is I was a former corporate controller before I started my own practice. That experience, coupled with starting a practice, which is now up to 15 employees, I believe gives me great experience to be on the board. I've also been on several boards in my community over the past 30 years, none of which I'm more prouder than my Catholic high school I attended. And we are now still the only parish Catholic high school left in the Archdiocese here in New Jersey. And I've been helping the finances out for that organization for the past 30 years. And, you know, for NAEA, I believe one of our key issues is membership, okay? And growing that membership is why I became involved. If I go back to 2011, I had been an EA growing my practice, but I was not involved in any EA organization. So I started attending my local affiliate. And from that, starting to attend, I then became on the New Jersey board, became president, and that led me to the NAEA. But, so my belief is to give back to the organizations. And that's where actions speak louder than words. And that's what I want to continue to do. An additional passion of mine is education. Okay. I believe all EAs at all levels, beginners to experienced, deserve to be educated in our organization, not in other organizations. And I think that will help us grow the organization. Okay. In the past, I haven't always heard that from everybody. And that's a real passion of mine, because education is a path to success. And if we're not educating all levels, all backgrounds, we're not going to grow this organization. And so that's what I'm most passionate about in strengthening this organization, is to have all levels be involved. And in recent years, we've started to do that. I want to continue that path going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ed. Leslie Castile for director.
Hi, my name is Leslie Castile. And first of all, let me thank each and every one of you for coming out. It shows that you care about our organization, and that's huge. The second thing, just to introduce you to myself, I started my own practice in 1994 at the age of 29. For those of you that's counting, I'm 57 for 2 more months. So help you out there. I've been active in my community and business organizations since I started my own business. Kind of come by it honest. My mom taught me that to whom much is given, much is expected. So, we're well blessed, and for that reason, we need to give back. I attended SSLA and got some invaluable training from Raven Deerwater, Terry Durkin, and Lonnie Gary, which I still consider 3 of the top talent here at NAEA. And I have served on the Bylaws and Governance Committee for 3 years, the Nominations Committee for 2 years. And this year I'm serving on Bylaws, Government Relations, and Finance. So I'm wearing myself out a little bit, but that's okay. I also served as President, Secretary, Treasurer, and Board of Directors for several nonprofits. And I'm currently the President of the Tennessee Society. 2 of the biggest things I think that's facing NAEA is the membership, which has already been said. That's probably the biggest thing. And then the second thing that I would like to see is a little bit of prepared regulation. And we'll go into that a little later. And then finally, we need to get the younger members to kind of help us older folks understand what their needs are, and to be better, to steal a phrase from John, to be better at diversity, equity, and inclusion for those with marginalized identities. We have to expand our membership and therefore our leadership to everybody. So thank you for coming and paying attention, and hopefully we'll let you know where we're going to go and what our visions are, and not waste your afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. And next we have Keisha Dawson-Harris.
Thank you, Phyllis. Good afternoon, everyone. As she said, my name is Keisha Dawson-Harris. I'm an SSLA graduate, an NTPI fellow, and currently the immediate past president of the Florida Society of Enrolled Agents. I am also the nominating chair for FSCA as well. For those of you who know me, you will often hear me say that I'm a product of this environment. It was the members at FSCA that first introduced me to the EA credential, and they're the reason I'm sitting before you now. So I will say that I'm a product. I was raised to be a member and to be a board member of NAEA. My advocacy is that's my biggest thing that I push the most. And if you are an EA, part of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights is representation. And not only for our clients, but I believe NAEA has shown, as they've grown over the years, that they are also advocating for us as a whole, as NAEA, as enrolled agents. It is our job to now reach back and advocate for those that are coming behind us, to groom other EAs, to groom other tax preparers, to move them forward. Like Leslie mentioned, through taxpayer regulation, through education, just through letting them know that you have a voice, and for us to be the voice for those moving forward. I would like to be, as a board member, to challenge other members to understand, like Leslie said, the understanding of diversity, equality, and inclusion. Sometimes we think it's just about sexuality or race, but it's about so much more. And I want to thank the boards that have come before, how we're pushing this, and that we now have this new committee that is saying that we need to represent all people, all voices, because that's what advocacy is. And at the end of the day, that is what an enrolled agent is. We are advocacies. We are advocates for taxpayers. We're advocates for each other. And through this committee and through us widening the way that we look at the world, we're able to see that it's all voices means representation for everyone. And I would like to see that NAEA is the premier organization that produces that. The other thing I would like to mention is that as leaders, it is our job to move others forward. And I do believe that when we include everyone, when we set standards and we set guidelines, it helps others to reach their potential and then move forward to be on the board. So thank you for nominating me, and I look forward to representing you.
Thank you, Keisha. And next up, we have Julia Harvey.
Hi, my name is Julia Harvey, but most of you and all of you, except for the IRS, know me as Julia Harvey. This is alias, so you probably would not find me under Julia on the NAEA website. However, I'm running for a director, and I thank you very much for this opportunity to be actually running for a directorship in the NAEA. I got involved in NAEA, actually, just like Keisha. I got involved through a local affiliate. So Nevada Society of Enrolled Agents kind of pushed me towards, like, why don't you get an EA license? This is way better than RQRP. So in a way, I think a lot of us get into this profession because we love to help people. But I think a lot of us continue our profession because we each other help each other. So I got helped by being pushed into the EA, not pushed, but mentioning that, and TPI fellowship and the same SSLA graduation. So all of that comes from fellow EAs who are part of our society and community. We are here to help each other. We are here to help people who cannot either represent themselves or prepare taxes for themselves. I think the leadership qualities that we all have, we already all have. The ability to inspire our clients to do the right thing, the ability to get each other to get involved in a board membership, or I've been inspired to serve the NAEA boards or committees actually by other members. So I think we all have that leadership quality inspiration. It's just we don't have the right fire underneath of us. And it had been said about the diversity, and in my opinion, diversity includes just about everything. We come from all different walks of life. We have people who are EAs, who CPAs, who have a dual EA licenses. We have PhDs, we have MTAs, we have all kinds of different people who are part of our NAEA. And at the same time, we have different kind of clientele. So we are constantly, there is no conversation about diversity because we are already there. We just need to challenge it and show it what we have. I think what NAEA has is a great thing. And I think a lot of members are kind of get sleepy in some way. And I know that I'm not speaking in the board terms because this is my first run for an office like that, for example. But I think if we inspire each other to actually get involved, and that comes from the passion for our profession, because NAEA is the only organization that supports enrolled agents, that supports somebody, licensure that comes from the federal government, that other professions might not respect nearly as much. And I think NAEA is the only one that fights for it. NAEA and the local affiliates are the ones that bring all of the EAs together. And I think the passion for our profession has a lot to do with that. It's just during the difficult tax seasons, we forget about our passion. We kind of get bored and we kind of get like, I'm going to quit the tax. But in the end, it's the passion. We come back every year. We come back for this. And I don't think it's a punishment. I think it's our love for our profession, for our clients. And NAEA is part of that love because we are the only ones that I can go to the NAEA board and I can go, can somebody has a question? I have a client who has this, and I always get answers. You don't get that anywhere else. You don't get that in any other profession. So I am very grateful that I am part of NAEA, and I'm very grateful that I was able to serve at the local affiliates and that I have the opportunity to serve at the national level. And I am also very grateful to everyone who are still part of NAEA and continue being involved. And if you're not involved, please consider. So thank you.
Thank you, Julia. And next we have Danny Lynn Murphy, EA.
Thank you, Phyllis. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be chatting with you today. As mentioned, my name is Danny Lynn Murphy, and my pronouns are she, her, or ella. Ella being because I'm biracial. I wanted to break down my introduction into 3 components: professional tax experience, broader career, and then what I would bring to the NAEA board. From a professional tax perspective, I'm a licensed EA and currently serve as a seasonal tax manager at Intuit TurboTax, where I manage a team of 35 tax experts who are serving both DIY and prepared taxes throughout the course of the tax season. Speaking to my broader career, I actually also have a full-time role working in human resources at Google and hold a doctorate degree in human resources, as well as a senior professional in HR credential and a certified diversity recruiter credential. I serve on a number of DEI related boards, both within Google and within my larger community. And actually last week just published a book with Penguin Random House on the critical importance of advancing corporate DEI and what that means for member-based organizations like NAEA as well. Pivoting specifically to NAEA, my motivation for nominating for the board and then following through with the nomination was DEI. And I will add DEIJ to that, with a J standing for justice as well, pulling DEI all the way through any initiative that we may be working on. As a newer EA, a newer NAEA member, and a younger professional overall, I do come to this board with an outsider perspective. However, I do believe it is that outsider perspective that's valuable. I come from the millennial Gen Z generation and have a strong familiarity with what life, day-to-day life, finances, economic situations, and taxation look like for those younger generations. We see the majority of millennials and Gen Z having side hustles and increasingly complicated tax situations for their age and junior level in their career. And it's my aim to represent that growth, that change, that increasing diversity to the board, and at the same time help grow the membership through my deep familiarity, both being a member of that generation and understanding that generation's needs and wants to help support NAEA's aim to grow membership both in breadth and depth. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. And next, last but not least, we have John Perry.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Perry. I live in Oklahoma City, and that's where I practice. And I want to say at the beginning that it's going to be a pleasure to work with these people that you are hearing now. And you can understand why after listening to them. My number one concern for the NAEA is something that we don't have to spend, we don't have to get ginned up about it all the time, but we spend time and money and resources on it all the time, and that is government relations. That is the National Association of Enrolled Agents, is the only body looking out for your enrolled agent credential. In some states, if you are from Minnesota or Nevada or further back in time, New York or other places, your license would be restricted and perhaps severely restricted. Your ability to practice would be hampered greatly were it not for the efforts of the National Association of Enrolled Agents. Nobody else is doing this for us. Nobody else is looking out for us. So we're doing this ourselves, and it must remain, in my view, our number one priority at all times. The good news is it's not an emergency. Our hair's not on fire about Minnesota right now, or any other state that's trying to circumscribe the practice of enrolled agents. That said, what else is there that that I'm interested in anyway? I certainly have a great interest in education, and that's if I were to say I have a passion, that would be it. But I have a primary interest in SSLA, specifically SSLA, leadership in general, although I don't view myself as a leader of leaders particularly, but SSLA is a particular, is particularly close to me. And the affiliates, I am, as I said, from Oklahoma. I started serving on the Oklahoma board 8 years ago. I have been the chairman of the education committee for Oklahoma and served on it. I've been the vice president, and I'm currently the president for Oklahoma. I believe strongly in the strength of the affiliates and in what they bring to the NAEA. And I think that we need to constantly work to keep the affiliates strong and to expand the affiliates to places where we don't have them now. And there are a number of those. I bring to the board two things. Number one, a willingness to work, but number two, and this is maybe more important, a willingness to work with the other people on the board. It is important for us to tolerate people who don't think like us and who don't agree with us. That's true not just of issues that might come before the board or any particular committee of the NAEA. That's true in life in general. But we need to work with people. We need to work with our fellow board members, our officers who are board members, and we need to give them due consideration and even love in a sense of charity. That's important. I work with members of the board in what I hope is a transparent manner. I have a rule that I follow, and I never sneak up on anybody with any issue on the board. If I'm going to make a motion, as soon as I decide I'm going to do it, I tell the other members of the board so that they can prepare to oppose it if they wish, or they can prepare to support me if they wish. I do not lay behind a log and try to get things that are my particular favorite issues passed a certain way, and I will not do that in the future. One of our core focus areas for the next 3 years is transparency, and I believe in living that on a personal level as well as an institutional level. I look forward to working with all of y'all, and I appreciate the opportunity, Phyllis, to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I just wanted to mention one thing to the attendees. We had envisioned having the Q&A open, and for various reasons that didn't happen. And we do have the chat open. I can see messages in the chat, but I'm unable to respond to the attendees. So it's not that we're ignoring you, it's that we can't. And Aaron will be collecting all of the questions, and we can be, monitoring the chat and responding afterwards. So I apologize for that little wrinkle, but we are doing the best we can. And now I'd like to move to our question and answer. And Twyla, I don't think we're going to be able to get to all three of the questions. Do you have a particular one that you would prefer to answer? And you are muted. Still muted.
There we go. There we go. I'm like John, I'm a huge proponent of advocacy, but he touched on that on various points. Why don't we, so I'll skip that, but I'm a huge proponent of advocacy. Why don't we, I guess let's go with the first one, Phyllis.
Okay.
Question number 1.
Great. I will read it. Oh, I think, I wonder if I changed these around. Twyla, if you wouldn't mind, just which is your question? What's the content?
Okay, absolutely. How do you expect to navigate the balance between good processes and reaching a desired outcome?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Now read that back to me, Phyllis.
How do you expect to navigate the balance between good processes and reaching a desired outcome?
You're awesome. Okay, all kidding aside, you know, in order to achieve any desired outcome, you do have to have processes in place and you have to have procedures that must be followed. You also have to have a good team whose common goal is to achieve that outcome. We just can't fly willy-nilly by the seat of our pants and hope that an idea is a good one, or throw something out there on the wall and see if it sticks. These processes are there for a reason. But I also believe this is where knowledge-based decision-making is crucial. And for members, you'll hear us refer to knowledge-based decision-making as KBDM. KBDM, there's 4 criteria that must be addressed. And so when you have an idea or something you want to implement, going through those criteria steps, it's, you know, do we have the money? Do our members want this? Do we have the resources? So answering those questions first is critical. Then you determine if that plan is feasible. Once you determine if it's feasible, then you set your processes and your procedures in order. And that's where I believe our committees and staff are so invaluable. They do so much of the legwork for NAEA. And once that KBDM has been established, then they can work towards that goal, that particular outcome. But they have to know that the plan will work first and how it will best serve the organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Twyla. Ed, during your time as chair and a member of NAEA's Finance Committee, what have you done to change, improve NAEA's financial management?
Thank you, Phyllis, for that question. So I was on the Finance Committee a year ago. This year, I've been chairing the committee. Okay, in chairing the committee, we put together a plan where we look forward. Obviously, we have to look at the numbers that have just occurred, but we take that information and we look forward. Because I believe for the board to operate more efficiently, the board must lead. So how can we lead through the finances? So each month, the Finance Committee meets. We look at the current numbers that actually happened. We compare them to the budget, and then we look at revising the actual numbers projected for the remainder of the fiscal year to make sure we're still operating inside the budget. Not just take the numbers that have happened in the past, but how they affect what's going to happen in the rest of the year and the future years. And I think that's been a tremendous help to the board. The Finance Committee's also been an open book to the entire board. I invite all the board members to the monthly Finance Committee, and most of them have been attending many, many meetings. So I feel the board is more informed about the finances than ever before. And, you know, we're always striving to improve the financial health of the organization through fiscal responsibility, but we can only do that on a going forward basis. We can't change the past. So the Finance Committee is always focusing on where we're going, not where we've been. And that's why I think has made a big difference inside this organization in the past year. Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you, Ed. Next question for Leslie Castile. You might notice that I'm doing the alphabetical thing here. How do you engage with members who are unhappy or complaining about NAEA?
Kind of funny I got this question because one of my biggest strengths is my soft skills. As a matter of fact, I work as well with TurboTax Live with Danny, and I'm actually a lead. And what generally happens is when our customer or our experts rather take a hit from an employee, or I'm sorry, from a customer, well, or from an employee, I'm the one that the managers in our pod always said, Leslie, can you go talk to them? And they would be in tears, and I'm happy to say they all stayed, and most of them have been promoted. So that's one of my fortes is calming people down. Then the other thing is, you know, like I say, most of them have moved on up. And then also when a customer complains and they want a manager to call them back, then my manager and my manager's manager always says, Leslie, can you call them? Because I can usually give them what they need to hear and help them fix the problem and let them know they're being heard. And that's exactly how I would handle it here as well, is you know, the same thing. And then the other thing that I would tell people is, you know, if you don't like the way something is run or is going, get in and help us fix it. You know, make your voice be heard. You get in and help us and tell us the way that you think it should be, and then we can all chat about it, and then, you know, draw consensus, and everybody then helps everybody, and we all get where we need to get in the end. Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you, Leslie. Keisha, you are up next. How do you see the relationship between NAEA and its affiliates, and how important is state and local member engagement?
The current relationship between NAEA and its affiliates over the past years, I would say it's definitely becoming more positive and it's moving forward. I know when I first became involved with our state board, you know, there was like, well, we didn't hear from the national yet, but now I can see where the lines of communication are open. We have more access to the national when we call in. You know, it's just a little bit like John mentioned, there's more transparency. As far as the importance of the state and local member engagement, again, I'll just go back to my own personal story. It was the state, it was the local chapter that reached out at the IRS tax forum. They had a meeting and they were like, look, why are you not an EA? And it was the local chapter that I contribute to. Like that is where I go home. Our last convention, we called it homecoming. It was right after a convention. It was right after the pandemic, and it was important that everybody came back home. So your local chapter is where NAEA, that's grassroots. Those are the people that are actually putting their hands on the members. My local chapter is who I call when I have a question. If, you know, I need to know something, it's a state affiliate that I'm reaching out to. I'm, you know, as the Orlando chapter president, I'm going to call Twyla, who is the Space Coast chapter president. I'll reach out to another member of my local board before I reach out to my national chapter. Even though I have, you know, colleagues across the nation, it is the grassroots. It's my local chapter that I reach out to. Those are the ones that I have my, you know, my meetings with. Those are the ones that I, you know, pack up a case and drive across town to sit at that EA's desk and ask a question. And again, without that local chapter planting the seed and letting me know, hey, it's important. We welcome you for being an EA. Yes, the national chapter gave me my EA pin, but it was the local chapter that voted me as the president. It was the local chapter that taught me the skills that I needed to even sit before you. That, you know, the local chapter is who voted for me to go to SSLA to learn how to come back. And if I'm strengthening my local chapter and my state chapter, it just helps me to strengthen the national organization as a whole. So the local and state affiliates, it's important that we grow them. And I have the pleasure of being in Florida. We're not as active as some states, but we're active. And it hurts me when I hear some states say, well, we're not active, or we never have a meeting. You know, that needs to be addressed, because I know that, you know, that is where we get our members. Our current state president was a local chapter member, and he was an employee of a local firm. And we talked to him about becoming active on the local board, the local chapter, and now he's our state president. Again, if we want to be strengthened as an organization, to be that voice, to be those advocates, we need to start with our home, and that is our local and state chapters. Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you, Keisha. And Yulia, for you, how do you envision encouraging NAEA members to move from being, quote, checkbook members to getting more involved?
Well, actually, I think the answer would be threefold. First, this pride in your profession, because people don't see it sometimes, but EA does not stand for executive assistant. EA stands for enrolled agent, a federally authorized tax practitioner under Code Section 31st. So we are authorized practitioners by the federal government. We need to have pride in that. When you have a pride in your profession, you will have pride in your professional organization, because we don't belong to National Association of Tax Professionals. We belong to National Association of Enrolled Agents. This is the only professional organization that supports us as EAs. So passion in your own profession is a big thing. And I think we need to reignite this. Second, I think the door swings both ways. And we heard it already from many people here. You can't complain if you're not trying to get involved. So I encourage everybody who is listening or going to be watching this recording, or even someday in the future years, we'll see that again. Please get involved. You know, you don't have to serve on a board. You just have to ask, can I help? You know, you can stuff the envelopes, you can do the little things, you can pick up the checks when the local chapter meets. You know, you have to do a little things. We are a membership organization. We don't have a big thing above us. We are what we are. You know, this is what we are. So, and the third thing I think is we all have a key. Every single person is passionate about something. Every single person can be involved in an organization. We just didn't pick up that certain key that will get them to get involved. And I think that all of the committees we have the affiliate committees, we have the leadership committees, we have a lot of membership committees, all of the committees, and at the local affiliate levels, if the leadership will start picking that key, asking questions to the members, if members will come up to their leadership and go, hey, I can do that. And, you know, I'm passionate about that. Why can't I do that? I think that will inspire a lot of people to serve. I heard from Colorado that one of the reasons why their board member was involved is because he went to their local session where they were talking about tax laws at the local Senate. And he's like, this is what I can do. And this is our profession. This is what we do at the big Senate, at the local Senate. And I think if we actually pick that key to every member, and if every member understands that, hey, this is not something that you are just belong to, this is your organization. This is whatever you're complaining about or whatever you wondering about, all of this can be fixed if you get involved in it. So just ask a question, just give yourself to it. And then I think that's how we're going to do it. And believe me, being on the board right now, running for the board, I'm not a special person. I'm just like any other member. I think that members kind of see the board members as gods in Olympus. It's not like this. We all, the same people sitting in our home offices doing taxes every year, and we all have the same frustrations. And I think if we see each other as totally equal, instead of affiliate, national, board, if we see each other equal, then we will be able to actually get involved and listen to each other instead of going, oh, national this, national that. I think if we pick that key, we will be able to get people involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Yulia. And Danny,
Sorry.
oh, no problem. Danny, how do you envision NAEA's diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts moving forward?
Thank you, Phyllis. I think first and most importantly, it's a hats off to NAEA for naming diversity, equity, and inclusion as a strategic priority. So many organizations are still coming around to why this is important. So we've taken a positive step forward by naming it as a priority, dedicating resources to it, making it a part of the strategic plan as well. But I think DEI can actually be an underlying component or mechanism for succeeding against each of the strategic priorities that we've named. And this can look like actively encouraging and nurturing new talent and emerging leadership at all levels, like other folks have said, as well as identifying ways to support marginalized folks in their pursuit of an EA credential or continuing growth within the profession, because gaining a credential costs money, and that can sometimes be a barrier to even pursuing a credential to begin with. And then as well, supporting the younger generations as they get more involved in taxes and as taxation evolves to support the way that younger generations are living their lives today as well. So all of that to say, by putting a focus on DEI as an organization, we're actually going to be able to better influence each of the priorities that we want to see the organization grow into and have more sustainable impact, because we're building these priorities on a stronger foundation versus on a foundation that we're going to have to come back later and fix if we were to not have already recognized that DEI is important. So I think, frankly, it's going to touch every part of the ways that we want to grow and change the organization.
Thank you, Danny. And John, what role do you bring generally to the decision-making process? How do you balance the need for quick action with the need for more research and deliberation?
I think that, and this is a broad statement, I know, but I think that many times when decisions are presented as being something that's urgent or must be accomplished or resolved immediately, that's not really true. I think there is usually time to do it right as opposed to doing it quickly. There's not an inherent distinction, or distinction is not the right word. There's not an inherent tension between doing it right and doing it quickly, but many times we think that we need to do something immediately because we won't have another board meeting for 4 months, or because something else is happening, the audit is coming up or something like this. In general, I think it's best to move deliberately. And when you need to add speed to that, you can still do it deliberately. You just need to do your deliberation a little more quickly. I can't remember the second half of the question that you asked me.
Well, now I have to remember to take myself off of mute. I think, that was basically it. The first part was, what role do you bring to the decision-making process? And the second was, how do you balance the need for quick action with the need for more research and deliberation?
Right. So it was the first half that I'd forgotten. What I bring, I think, is a desire to know facts. And you can beat that to death. You can just flog a horse until it's dead and been dead for ages. But and so sometimes you can delay decisions, or decisions can be delayed while people are unreasonably requesting more information, more information, more information, more justification, more blah, 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 blah. And so we should avoid that. And I hope that I avoid that, but I certainly am one of the people who, and not the only one on our board, but one of the people who really wants to know more information as before we do something about why would it be good. There was a mention, Twyla mentioned it, and it explained it pretty well about the way we go about the evidence-based decision making. I have noticed that sometimes the evidence for which is presented to base our decisions on is it's more like opinion. I'm going to stop short of saying propaganda, but it's more like this is what we want, and so that's what we want. And that we all have a tendency to do it that way, and I'm sure among those. But we really should, to the best we can, try to look at what will be the real world consequences of what we do, and what will be the real world costs and sequelae from the actions that we take. So I bring to the board at least a request that we look at those things. And I must say, the other members of the board that I serve with currently, and I expect it will be true after May with a few new members, are very good about accommodating that request and participating themselves and wanting the same thing, wanting the information necessary to make the best decision possible.
Thank you, John. And so now we'll move into our group discussion, and we'll see how this goes. Let's try to keep it kind of free form, but if we start kind of stepping all over one another, we can move into raising of hands and whatnot. And so these are general questions having to do with, more strategic issues at NAEA. And the first one is, what does it take to attract, groom, support, and encourage new leaders? And Danny, would you kick this one off?
Sure. Thank you for sending it over here first, because I feel like being the newest member of NAEA and the newest EA in the group, there's a lot I think my own experience can help highlight here. And I think the first component, actually Twyla kind of touched on it already, is having an onboarding program not only to membership, but also to leadership opportunities that goes beyond a hello. So introducing the organization to new members, and then also having a process by which leadership opportunities throughout the organization are introduced to the membership, an engagement program for individuals who might not be engaged with their local affiliate, and nurturing them into building relationships there. It's kind of similar to the way that a salesperson would nurture customer relationships, except in our case, we're looking for long-term sustainable relationships with our members. So it has a little bit more of a long tail to it. But in short, basically, we need to have strategic initiatives that continue to engage our members, not just in annual touch points or legally related touch points, that encourages them to get involved and identify the need for their voice in leadership, which then encourages them to step up.
Thank you. I will put that question out there again. What does it take to attract, groom, support, and encourage new leaders? And Leslie, do you have anything to add?
Really, Danny Lynn kind of covered it on there. What we need to do is we need to have more younger folks like her involved, so that we can understand what we need to do to grow that segment of our membership. One of the things that I think we have done that's made it more attractive to the millennials and the younger crowd is doing the webinars instead of all the in-person. Of course, we were kind of forced to do that because of COVID, but sometimes COVID forced a couple of good things to happen. So, I think it's a good thing that we've got that out there now, so you can do it that way. Or if you want, then you can turn around and do the in-person, which most of us older people like. And, we don't want to take the test if we have to do it on the screen or whatever. But no, the main thing being that, we like the networking opportunities. And I know as for me, I can pick up the phone and I can call Nashville. I'm in Knoxville, and I can call Nashville and ask any of the folks that are there, hey, I've got this problem. I'm stuck on it and I don't do this very well. Can you help? Because, Circular 230 does require us to be competent on our return. So if there's something we're not competent on, we got people to reach out to in this group that we know knows their stuff.
Thank you. Ed, anything you want to add on how we can attract, groom, support, and encourage new leaders? Oh, you're muted.
I think we have to have an active program to seek out the leaders. It's not just a matter of opening it, it's finding the right people. So I think we just need to improve ourselves on who we're looking for to be those leaders, and then obviously train them and prepare them. But I think we could improve upon the way we seek them out.
Thank you. As I mute myself as I'm talking, Keisha, what would you like to add to that discussion?
I would just like to add that everybody's a leader, and I agree with Julia. Sometimes we forget that who we are, and being reminded, being around like minds. As an enrolled agent, we iron sharpen iron. Don't forget you are America's tax expert, and to bring people in and have that the person that's been there, the seasoned professional, remind them, hey, you can call the IRS. No, you do need to challenge this. Sometimes you need to have someone there that's coaching. So, I know we have some type of mentoring program in place, but to really facilitate that even more, to have people that are willing to, hey, if you have a problem, call me. I will be more than happy to walk you through. Or, even in the chats that we have, someone will post a question and, you've been in the social media post and everyone's like, oh, that's tax 101. To understand that we're all at different levels, and to just mentor that and have an environment of growth and learning and acceptance to where everyone's not on the same level, but then to also be open-minded to let people correct you when it's done the correct way. That keeps people from like, oh, I don't want to be in leadership. There are times when people have corrected me and it's like, you know what, I want to emulate them and go on to be in a leadership position. So sometimes just the way we deal with people on the local level or on Facebook or Instagram helps them see the leadership qualities that they have, and then they will take that to move forward to step into a different role in the organization.
Great, thank you. Julia.
Well, first of all, absolutely agree with Keisha, because that's a big thing, I think, for us. And second, I think on a lot of ways, it's lead by the example, because you might not know on the local levels, you're gathering and everybody's having their own meetings and everybody's doing the chats when we're doing it online. But the thing is, people observing. So when you lead by example, when you show your leadership quality, other people will get involved, because most people are timid. I was very timid about this, and it took Dave Tollett to point at me, and it took Bernadette Antonelli to say, yeah, hey, you know what? I want to hear what you have to say. So it takes people to see what you have, but at the same time, in order for them to show it to you what you have to lead by example. Be inclusive, don't shut out all of the other things that we always done it this way. We understand that, but sometimes in new ways is a different way. And some people think differently. A younger generation thinks different than the older generation and vice versa. And what the middle generation thinks, nobody understands because we're trying to please everybody. At the same time, you got to remember, younger members are very, very valuable to our organization because they are the future of it. But the older members are just as valuable because they are the ones that built this organization. So we need to be able to show that we appreciate everyone. When somebody says something to you and they are doing a good job, acknowledge it. It's not much, but you know what? It encourages people like me who never could say their word, their own name out loud in front of 50 people to sit there and actually run for a board. And also, treat this as a national, I don't know, if you're into sports, Super Bowl or whatever it is. You know what? We have 44 members right now sitting, and 9 of us are on the screen. This is an organization of 9,000 people, almost. Yes, we need to be a little more passionate. And I think spreading the word about what's happening and how great it was, even if it wasn't, but you know, how great we did today, maybe that will bring more people to watch it, and maybe that will bring more people to get, but lead by example. That's the biggest thing. Pull out the negative, stop talking negatively, stop discussing others, and encourage people to do something. So lead by example.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Yulia. So I'm hearing, some common themes here: mentoring, outreach, and, I think it's super important to realize that sometimes we see qualities in other people that they don't see in themselves. And, how do we incorporate that? And I guess, Twyla, I'll kind of send the next question over to you. How do you envision cultivating new members, retaining lapsed members, and how does this outreach and mentoring factor into your vision of serving on the board?
That's a loaded question. Cultivating, and it kind of, my answer is kind of going to reiterate what others have said. Cultivating new members is making them feel welcome. My first introduction to FSEA, I was at a convention and I had just become an EA. I didn't know anybody. And that night at dinner, it was dinner on our own, the table I was sitting at, the lady said, "Come have dinner with us, join us." And they said, "No, come on. I thought, what the heck? So I went. Well, unfortunately, I did that. And then come to find out, they said, "Oh, we want you to be on this committee." And so that was my involvement. It was, they were reaching out, they were touching me. And that's what we have to do. We have to do these with new members. And I think another thing is in making them realize, especially if they're on their own and they're not in a large firm, they can reach out to NAEA for that support, for that tax question. It's very hard. Years ago, I was by myself, and it's very hard when you are by yourself on, well, I think this is the answer, but I'm not sure. And if you have somebody, you can bounce it off and not feel intimidated. I think that's very important. And for new people up and coming, I think they need to feel that and not feel intimidated. As far as lapsed members, everything revolves around money. If we had a gazillion dollars, we could solve all of our problems with membership, but we're limited. But those lapsed members, reach out to them. Why did you let your membership last? Some lapse, some of them have forgotten and just, I didn't realize my dues, or I got busy, time got away from me, life got in the way. But those touches, and again, emails are great, but we all know we've lost, emails in the gazillion that we get each day. So we have to do something more proactive in reaching out to those members, mentoring people. I think it's important that we, as new members come up, that we reach out to them, and just like I was approached, you're going to be on this committee, aren't you? You know, and do it in face-to-face environments when we're in-person events. Calling somebody on the phone or sending an email, it's very easy to say no that way. But when somebody's staring you in the face, or you know, after our events, you're sitting in the bar and a few cocktails, then it's easy to encourage people. So we have to do more of that in-person events and touching people.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Twyla. I must say that most of these successful recruitment efforts involving me have taken place at the bar. So I am an advocate for that message. John Perry, we've been talking a lot about outreach and kind of, you know, balancing the in-person and the virtual. You know, how do you see your role as an NAEA leader regarding that aspect?
I think we need to retire to the bar more often. But okay, so it was all in person, and weren't the 3-day meetings in Orlando or Fort Lauderdale and Las Vegas, weren't they fabulous? I mean, we got to hang out with people all day. You could do all 3 levels of NTPI. You could do graduate NTPI. You could do the tax track. We had the annual. I mean, they were just fabulous. And then along came COVID and kind of wiped that out. And I don't think we're back today yet, if we're ever going to get there, to where people want to go back to those kinds of mega meetings. Maybe we will, and maybe we won't, but we're certainly not there yet. And I don't think we're going to be there, you know, in the next 6 months or a year. So what we have to do is encourage the type of programs that attract different people. Some people, and I'm one of them, much prefer the in-person meetings. Mostly I like it because I like talking to people outside of the speaking part. And sometimes while the speaker's speaking, I must confess. But the Zoom meetings are, I mean, they're great. I don't have to travel. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to dress up. No tie. I can be in my underwear. It's great. As long as we offer both, and I think we'll be doing fine on that. What I believe is a little more important is that we offer vibrant, interesting education taught by superstars to the extent we can. We've got some superstars amongst our instructors in the NAEA and NTPI. So I think that if we can offer great education at a reasonable price, and it's harder to have a reasonable price when you have in-person events these days because everything is so much more expensive. But if we can do that, and we can encourage that, and we can support our education staff who I mean, they work lights out to get good topics, good speakers, good venues, good programs, support them and help them where we can. I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be just fine. And I think we will continue to hold the interest of our members and to attract some new members on that basis.
Thank you, John. Keisha, we've been, hearing a lot about, kind of balancing the need to, serve our, shall we say, more seasoned members with the needs of newer members. And, I think a lot of that does involve the, the balance between in-person and virtual. I think it's very difficult for people, who have families to travel and, especially to a multi-year event. How do you see that balance evolving?
Personally, I think it's about priority and also about topic. If it's a good class and it's something that I need, I'll personally travel for it. But I believe that some of the affiliates, because of COVID, have changed the way that they offer, their continuing education, their yearly event. And, they take into consideration, I can only speak for here in Florida, but I know we take into consideration people coming to Orlando with their families, what will work best. And, if it's a topic that's going to bring in a national speaker and people want to come, people do what they want to do. So, and I'm not going to say it's based on season, because people will come and do what they want. There was a couple years ago when I would never send someone to the grocery store to buy my groceries, and now I literally will only order my groceries online. So people will change and people will do what works best for them. If they're able to travel to Oklahoma and attend John's annual conference, they'll be there. And if not, they'll watch it virtually, whichever way it takes them to get continued education that benefits them, and whatever is their priority, that's what people will choose. To be able to now understand that we offer a virtual, or now we're calling it hybrid, I think that's a plus, because now I have options. I don't have to buy a plane ticket and travel somewhere. I now have the options to sit, as John would say, pantsless in my office and watch the webinar. So again, the fact that NAEA is making these adjustments and changing, seasonal people, as we call them, I don't know where the line is, the season, unseasoned, people are making changes whether they want to or not. Society is making us change. So those who don't change, they fall behind. I mean, some of my clients that are in their 90s teach me things about an iPad that I don't even know. So people will adapt and change. We just have to let them know, hey, these are the options. Choose what works best for you, or this isn't the environment for you. So that's my answer.
Thank you. Ed, anything to add on that kind of how do we balance the old and the new, the virtual and the in-person?
We just continue to learn every day. So
That is
nothing more to add. So
excellent.
all excellent comments.
Thank you. Leslie? Oh, you're muted.
There we go. I couldn't get it undone. Sorry. No, I tend to agree with Keisha and pretty much everybody. I think we have a consensus on the fact that we need to get the younger folks involved and the quote seasoned, which I'm not yet. But anyway, we need to make sure that we are capable of bringing all things to everyone. And I think we're doing a lot better than that. And like I said earlier, COVID kind of made us get out of our comfort zone and do a few things that we weren't used to doing. And as I said, I think it's for the better on a lot of these things. And I also agree with John. I'd much rather do it in person, but my reason is because I don't want to have to take a test if it's an online thing.
Thank you, Leslie. Danny, anything you'd like to add?
I think the only thing I would add that hasn't already been said is the virtual offerings expand our opportunity to attract a part-time membership. You heard in my introduction that I'm an EA part-time, and having a full-time job means I have to take PTO days to go to things in person. Thinking about like Leslie and I both being at Intuit TurboTax, there's a whole cachet of folks who are EAs and maintain their license annually, but only practice January to April. And so having the virtual options just gives us that opportunity to engage a whole subset that might not otherwise join because of those in-person barriers. So I also see it as an avenue for membership growth too.
Thank you. John, anything you'd like to add?
There is, and it doesn't have anything to do with virtual versus in-person versus in-person education. And I'm going to tip my hat to our current treasurer and to Ed as the current head of the finance committee. One of the things that we've had in the NAEA is a dangerous and frightening even income loss, and we lacked for a while because of the problems with the database, the ability to track those things particularly well. Coming out of that, the NAEA has now not only pivoted to a forward-looking approach, in addition to the standard reporting of finances as they sit and as they've been over the last period that's being reported, but also to a wiser approach to our assets and to forming a oh, I'm blanking on the word for it right now, but to forming a fund that will serve as as protection against hard times. The board has designated now, and we are continuing to, we will continue over the years to build it up, a fund that it's a board designated general fund that will give us the ability to have a bad year or a bad conference or something like that. That's something we haven't had in the past, and it's something that we needed greatly. It's something that we'll be glad we did have when we get this year's audit. And the credit for that belongs to Nancy and Ed. And I simply wanted to point that out for the people who might not have been on, or aren't on the board yet, and might not be aware of how much went into that, and the people listening, what an important, critical even, event that was.
Reserve policy,
Yes.
John.
That's the word I was trying to think of. And a reserve policy is something that in years to come, we will be so happy that we had, even if we never need to dip into it.
Thank you, John. Having lived in a co-op for a long time in New York City, we really appreciate the concept of reserve funds. Yulia, anything that you would like to add?
Yes, actually, I would like to say something about what Keisha said and Danielle said. Danny said, I don't think you need to be a seasonal tax professional to understand that you cannot attend a conference, for example. So having both virtual and not virtual is extremely important for a lot of people. I talk to a lot of members, part of my affiliate committee membership. I talk to a lot of members, and a lot of members are actually work for somebody else. And they do have to take PTO. They do get their education differently because of this, because they can't prioritize education from an NAEA versus just general tax education and time with their family on vacation. So we all need that time on vacation. So you can't take your vacation time to attend a conference. So having the virtual is extremely important. It's also important for people who have kids, people who have the sandwich generation, who still have kids and the parents already in the house. It's important for a lot of people. So I think us moving to a virtual and in person is great. If you have the ability to go to the in-person event, go. But as Keisha said, it's a priority. We all have those things that we will drop everything, even the client, just to go to that event. So it might be it. It might be the national speaker that you're looking for. You never know. So I think that was a great feel. And I think we need to keep this virtual and in person both, because it serves two different memberships categories and we can cross-pollinate those two. Thank you.
Thank you, Yulia. Twyla. Oh, you're muted. There you
I'm
go.
muted. I don't want to, they've said it all as far as virtual and non-virtual about priorities. It's the lost art of in-person events. It is a lost art. And Danny, no offense, or anybody younger people, but I don't think the younger people know the value of those in-person events. They're huge, they're great. And membership, and it's not just NAEA, I think it's across the country. Belonging to an association, people aren't seeing the value in it. And the networking that we get out of it, the networking I've gotten out of it. I know I can pick up the phone and Phyllis, I can call you. I've done that. You know, I can call you about a New York issue. I can call somebody in California. And that's invaluable to me. And that pays for my membership because I can get that help and reach out to somebody at any time. So we do have to have hybrid. I agree. We need to keep that. But I think we really need to push those in person and reach out to the younger people and explain to them the value and show them that we can have fun and make our events fun. So it's not just 8 hours of sitting, and we all know you get tired sitting, but afterwards make those events and make them feel welcome at those social events.
Thank you. And we're getting near the end of our time. That was certainly a very rich and engaging discussion. I thank you all for that. Thank you for sharing your passion and your ideas for NAEA. And does anyone have any closing remarks, brief closing remarks that they would like to make? Twyla?
And thanks, Phyllis. I'll be very brief. I do want to thank the nominating committee for their hard work. Anyone who's ever served on a non-com, whether it's national or state, they're aware of the work and responsibilities that's involved. Also want to thank staff at NAEA. They all work so hard and they make our organization shine. Most importantly, I do want to thank our members. We have a fantabulous membership. We have members who care and who want to help. And that's what we're all about, our great membership, our organization, and we need to shout that from the rooftops. Thank you.
Thank you, Twyla. Anyone else have any closing remarks? Oh, Yulia?
I'll just say this. First of all, thank you, the 31 members that's still hanging in there. Good for you. Anybody else who's going to be video recording, watching the video recording, yay for you. And also try to spread it out. We all have a passion in life. We all have an event that we will drop everything in the world to go to, whether it's the sports, whether it's the fashion, whatever it is. So try to treat your profession and NAEA belonging to this organization that fights for you, that fights for your bread and butter, because if you lose your ability to practice as EA, you're not going to be able to work in your state. So that fights for you. Treat us, treat our membership organization as that event that you can drop everything in the middle of the tax season and go to a retreat for 3 days, for example, to see a live show of speakers who will be teaching you about stuff. So have a passion for our profession. And I thank you very much all who stayed. Thank you.
Thank you, Yulia. Anyone else have any brief closing remarks? Leslie?
Yeah, Phyllis, I've got one thing. I want to follow up with Twyla. She thanked everybody we need to thank. except for you, Phyllis Jo. So I appreciate your time. We know you're on the NomCom as well. So, and I mimic her responses. Working on that NomCom is a hard job and very time consuming for anybody that's ever done it. So, thank you all. And then thank you as well, Phyllis.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Keisha?
I'll just say have a great day. And again, thank you, Phyllis, and to the board, the NomCom committee as well. But if I'm elected, I'm excited. This is an amazing potential board of directors. I'm excited for us doing some type of life-changing event with NAEA.
That's great. Anyone else? All right, well, I will just say in closing, I remind everyone to view the nominees' statements on the NAEA website. Voting will be between December 1st and 15th via email ballot. Many thanks also from me to the NAEA Nominating Committee, Gary Anspach, EA, Bernadette Antonelli, EA, George Dandridge, EA, Michelle Lonsway, EA, Dave Tolleth, EA, our chair, Raven Deerwater, EA, also our board liaison, Cynthia Leachmore, EA, and our NAEA staff liaison, Meg Killian, and our most terrific tech stuff person today, Aaron Mosher. It has been an honor and a pleasure to serve on the nominating committee. Thanks again to all of the nominees, to the NAEA staff for facilitating this event, and last but not least, to you, our audience, both here in person and listening to the recording. I hope you have a terrific rest of your day. Take care. So long.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.